Burkina Faso voted today in an election to choose the country's first new president in decades. It comes as a year after longtime leader Blaise Compaoré was overthrown by an army-backed uprising. I-24 News correspondent Shanina Khshoni reports.
Burkina Faso is set to vote on Sunday in the first election since longtime leader Blaise Compaoré was removed after attempting to extend his 27 years in power. Jaffa Port, now running for the presidency, was the leader of Compaoré's main opposition during his reign.
We've come a long way. You were with us during all of our battles. Now that's enough. It's about building a new Burkina Faso.
Analysts say only 2 of the 14 presidential candidates stand a real chance of winning.
We wish for the people not to be disappointed if the favorite candidate did not win, and not to protest against the results in the streets. No, we are here to say, whoever the winner is, it really is God who chose him and who placed him there to lead the Burkinabés.
During Compaoré's rule, he turned Burkina Faso into one of the most significant allies of the United States and France in the struggle against radical Islam in West Africa. The state shares a long western border with the north of Mali, which suffered a terrorist attack on a luxury hotel in the capital last Friday, in which 20 people were killed. Burkina Faso has been ruled by a transitional government since 2014, and voting was originally scheduled for October. But a failed coup attempt a month beforehand postponed it. The coup fell apart a week later after it was condemned by international leaders and local protesters and unions who staged a general strike.
These elections are different because the elections we've had before, we already knew who would win, but this year we don't know.
About 5,000 observers are spread across the country to prevent electoral irregularities, and a high voter turnout is expected.
And with me on the phone right now is Sarah Firth, a freelance journalist. Good evening. Thank you very much for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
So, Sarah, after a long time, after decades and decades, we just heard one of the residents saying, each and every time we knew exactly what is going to happen. This time, we don't know what is going to happen. And I wonder how reliable or how can we, maybe the people who are seeing it from outside, trust the results that we will see tomorrow?
Well, look, I think it's just so important that what we've seen today is voters have turned out to cast their ballot in Burkina Faso. It's been such a long road just to get to this point. So it's already such huge progress that you've seen what is, by all reports from the ground, very large numbers turning out to cast their vote. And you had this repeated throughout the previous weeks and months. And again, today, people are turning out to vote, but no one knows who's going to win. And that's already such a huge progress from what we've seen in the past. There's so much hope in that simple statement for people in Burkina Faso. And at the same time, you've got a large number of observers that are on the ground that have been overseeing this process. You've got the local poll results that are going to be monitoring this incredibly closely. So you're right that there's a huge amount of curiosity and a huge amount of focus over this process right now in Burkina Faso, but it's already an incredible step forward for the country, but also for West Africa as well. It's the second major election that we've had where we've really seen an engagement with this free and fair progress. And I mean, amazing that this is the first time in 3 decades that you've had people in Burkina Faso able to go out, participate in an election in this way. So what comes next is going to be very important, but what's happening is a huge step.
Yeah. Sarah, I want to take you, for example, for what here in the Middle East we experience. For example, in 2004, there was an election in the West Bank where the Hamas took over in a democratic election, and everybody said, okay, it's about time. There was a big change, and the change maybe will make our lives better, and it ended up that the lives weren't any better for anyone, especially not the people in the Gaza Strip, not even the people in the West Bank. What are the chances that people will actually live better lives after these elections, or something will actually change in this country?
Well, I think the important thing is that this is a very fragile young democracy, and there's always that risk, I think, when you have moments like this of sort of taking too many steps forward in terms of predictions about what's going to come next. The reality is that this is an incredibly fragile moment for Burkina Faso. And you've seen the course of events over the last year. Just in September, you had that very, very short coup where the transitional government was overthrown and then reinstated. So there is an incredibly long way to go. I mean, you don't get democracy in these countries overnight. But again, coming back to, the time in the other election in West Africa, Nigeria's elections, I've been there on the ground this year, and that was something you heard from people, this sort of call to change, the huge amount of hope around that. The reality is, that, of course, once the elections pass, there is a huge, long way to go, a lot that needs to be done. But again, I think what's important, again, for Burkina Faso right now, but for West Africa as well, is the fact that you're even seeing this happen. It's just such a major event to take place in Burkina Faso in this way.
Yes, Sarah Firth, thank you very, very much for this phone call with us. And we're going to Pope Francis, arrived in the Central African Republic today, where he delivered a message of reconciliation to a nation racked by several years of violence between Muslims and Christians. Ayman Siksik reports.
Je suis émue.
I came and got the chills. I don't know how to describe how I feel, but I'm extremely happy. I have peace, a voice, and we really hope that after his trip, there will be change.
Mass excitement in the Central African Republic, where Pope Francis is being welcomed by both Christians and the Muslim minority. This marks the pontiff's first visit to a combat zone on a tour of the African continent. For his followers, the spiritual possibility of peace is a much-needed promise.
It's a sense of relief. I'm thankful for all the love that the Pope brings us, but also for the peace. We're very happy about his visit.
This is the third and last leg of the Pope's trip to Africa, after visiting Uganda and Kenya. But unlike his previous stops, the Central African Republic is a country still ripped apart by religious infighting. Bangui, the capital of the former French colony, has seen a surge in clashes that have left at least 100 people dead since late September. Pope Francis is expected to deliver a message of reconciliation and peace to the war-hit country, where elections are due next month.
First, unity. This, we know, is a cardinal value for the harmony of peoples. It is to be lived and built up on the basis of the marvelous diversity of our environment, avoiding the temptation of fear of others, of the unfamiliar, of what is not part of our ethnic group, our political views, or our religious confession.
The Pope arrived in the capital under heavy security, proving that despite the rhetoric of peace, the reality of war is still calling the shots.
Now we're going to the United States. Done with the Thanksgiving turkey, several Republican candidates got back on the campaign trail this weekend, including Donald Trump and his chief rival, Ben Carson. ABC News has more.
A grand entrance for the Republican frontrunner in Florida.
The next president of the United States.
Donald Trump arriving for a rally in Sarasota in his personal helicopter before taking the stage with thousands of fans packed inside. The candidate, known for stirring controversy, was quickly interrupted by a heckling protester.
Please nicely escort the person out. Please, thank you.
Trump taking a diplomatic approach to the disruption 1 week after he was criticized for his handling of another protest.
Get him out of here. Throw him out.
At that rally, a man wearing a Black Lives Matter t-shirt was allegedly pushed and hit by Trump supporters as security escorted him out. Today, Trump saved most of his attacks for critics who've questioned his treatment of a newspaper reporter with a rare genetic disorder.
Now the poor guy, you got to see this guy. Oh, I don't know what I said. I don't remember. I don't mock people that have problems.
Meanwhile, overseas, rival Ben Carson was in Jordan, a trip to bolster his foreign policy credentials. He spent the day visiting camps for refugees fleeing Syria.
We're just getting a good impression of what's going on here.
Carson has rejected President Obama's plan to bring at least 10,000 Syrian refugees to the U.S. this year. Today, he said the government should do more to help countries like Jordan resettle refugees in the Middle East. But many countries in the region, overwhelmed by the refugees, say Western countries need to do more to ease the humanitarian crisis.